الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. How you all doing this evening? You all ready for the all-nighter? Y'all gonna be sleeping about 2 hours. At least four, huh? MashaAllah. So we have a topic of discussion that we have been asked to share with you. That topic of discussion has to do with oppression, history, and current events. And to talk about this properly, I really don't want to kind of sit here and just lecture you. I would rather it be an experience. In fact, I would rather it be more of an interactive experience. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking, and hopefully you all do a little bit of talking too, and then we'll talk together, and hopefully by the tail end of this discussion, we'll be walking away with more than what we came in with. That's our hope. Is that okay?
Yeah!
Okay, so we can talk, we have a discussion. We're going to open up with a verse of the Quran, a verse that I believe that many of us will be familiar with, but hopefully we're going to enter into some depth in this discussion. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ أُولَئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمَنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Those who have Iman, those who have faith, and they do not clothe their faith, they do not veil their faith, they do not cover their faith with dhulm, with oppression. Such individuals, they will have safety, they will have tranquility, they will have freedom from fault and deficiency. Such individuals are guided. This is our foundation for our discussion today. Now, for this to make sense, we need to talk about a few things. We're going to say this again first, though. Those who have Iman, those who have faith, and they don't cover their faith with oppression, they will have safety and tranquility. They're already guided. So far, so good. Okay, here's our first discussion in order to make this make sense. What is Iman? What is faith? What do we think? Well, I grabbed something for myself here. I'm pretty sure we've heard of the word Iman before. Oh, I didn't see you guys back there. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Iman. We've heard that word before, Iman? Yes. Oh, I didn't see you either. I'm sorry. I see you now. I see you. What is Iman? We translate Iman. We will say things like, we'll say faith. We'll say spirituality. We'll say belief. We'll say things like that, right? But what is Iman? What is Iman in Islam? What do we think? Don't be scared. Jump out of the airplane, 30,000 feet in the sky. It's okay. You got a parachute. And if your parachute doesn't work, I'll catch you myself. Who is so bold? What is Iman? What do you think? Anyone? I heard something. I didn't see it, but I heard it. He said, no, it wasn't me. Yes, please. Come again? A parachute of sorts and figuratively. Good, keep going. So our brother, and I'm going to ask you your names about at least 6 times. Please allow me. So what's your name? Amir? Amin.
No, Hamim.
Oh, Hamim. Hamim. My dear brother Hamim, he says a parachute. Who agrees with Hamim? Iman is a parachute. Yes? She agrees with Hamim. You
No, I don't agree with him.
You don't agree with him?
No, I'm asking.
Okay. You agree with Hamim? Maybe so? Okay. What's your name?
I did.
Okay, Adil. Okay. What's Iman?
Belief in Allah, belief in the prophets.
Okay, slow down. Belief in Allah?
Yeah, belief in the prophets.
Belief in the prophets?
Belief in the day of judgment.
Belief in the day of judgment?
Belief in divine decree.
Belief in divine decree?
Belief in the books.
Belief in the books?
Belief in the angels.
Belief in the angels. Okay. So, our dear brother is saying that Iman, our faith, is the articles of faith, the pillars of faith. To believe in Allah, to believe in the angels, to believe in the books, messengers, the last day, and fate, qadr. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
We agree with that. Okay. There's another? Yes.
I want to say that Iman is like a straight path.
Iman is like a straight path. What's your name?
Ibrahim.
Ibrahim. Okay. Like in Al-Fatiha, Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, like that straight path?
Yeah.
Asking Allah to guide us to the straight path? I like that. I like that as well. Okay. Now, Adil, he mentions the 6 pillars of Iman. Hamim says a parachute. Ibrahim says it's the straight path. So, let's at least say this. Have we heard of a thing called the pillars of Iman before? The 6 pillars of Iman? We've heard of that before, right? Okay. And we memorize them, we list them out. There are 6 of them, we just named them, we're familiar with them. Do we know what the purpose of that is though? Do we know why we know that? Like, do you know what's like its function, like what it's supposed to do for us? Yes? Take a shot. What is your yes? Well, before the what, where? Where is your yes? Where are you? So, kind sir, was that you? What's your name? Mustafa. Lion King guy. Okay. Okay, Mustafa. Okay, Mustafa. Why do you think that is?
Because you cannot worship Allah without you cannot worship Allah without believing in Him, and like for the other things, like you can't, like without believing in it, you cannot
Okay, so you can't worship Allah without believing in Him. Okay. So when it comes to what we believe as Muslims, there are things that we believe as Muslims, and there are things that we do not believe as Muslims. Yes, no? Okay. Everything that we believe as Muslims is based on the 6 pillars of Iman. All of it. Everything that falls under the realm of words that you may have heard or that you maybe will hear sometime in the future, words like Aqidah, words like theology, our belief system, our creed, words like Tawheed, words like monotheism, words like these, right? All those things you learn about when you enter into those fields, all of it is based on the 6 pillars of Iman, everything we believe. So if we believe it as a Muslim, it either is one of these 6 things, or is built on one of these 6 things, or is connected to one of these 6 things. If it's not in range of that, we don't believe it. That's why the 6 pillars of Iman are important. Does that make sense? So it's not just a random words that you just memorize in order, I know the 6. It has functionality in your spirituality, like it means something, right? You can use it for something. Does that make sense? All right, since we're talking about Iman, and your answers are right, nobody said anything wrong. Your faith is iqrar and tasdeeq. It is an affirmation and it is a belief. So when you say you have Iman in something, when you say you have faith in something, you are acknowledging that this thing is true, and you are choosing to take it as your personal belief. Both. Because it is possible to know something is true, and then you still choose not to believe it. Are there people like that? Are there people who know truth and still reject it? Yes. So in order to have iman, you have to know that it's true, and then you choose to take it as your personal truth. That's iman. Does that make sense? Okay. So like our iman, it is a belief in our heart, it's a statement upon our tongues, and it's action upon our lips. Right? So everything that we believe as Muslims, it starts here in our hearts. But if it is truly here inside of your heart, it can't just stay inside of your heart. It has to manifest itself in your speech and in your actions. If you truly believe, at some point in time, you're going to say something that is in alignment with what you believe. At some point in time, you're going to speak about what you believe. Yes or no? If you have iman in your heart, at some point in time, you're going to act on this belief that you have. Maybe it's your salah. Maybe it's your prayer. Maybe it's your charity. And clearly, it's you being present here tonight at this event. This is an action that you're doing, right? Whatever it is for you, right? Whatever it is for you. So, that's iman. This verse is stating, those who have iman, and they do not cover their iman with dhulm, with oppression. Those people will have safety and security, and they are rightly guided. So in this verse, what do we think oppression is? We know what iman is. What's oppression? And we have brothers, but we got sisters too. We can't like see all of y'all, but we know y'all there. So feel free to jump in and participate. What is oppression? What do we think oppression is about inside of this verse? Those who have iman, those who have faith, and they don't cover their faith with oppression, they will have safety and tranquility, and they already got it. What's oppression? Huh?
No, I didn't say nothing.
You still didn't say no. Not yet. Not yet.
Nah, that wasn't
All right.
me.
That wasn't you. All right, you coming next time, Michelle. Go ahead. Yes.
My name is Riyad, and I think oppression is like the act to stop something from continuing.
Okay. Riyadh says oppression is the act to stop something from continuing. I like that. I like that one. All right. We're gonna put a bookmark here. We're gonna come back to that. Yes.
It's like
Adi.
hurting someone unjustly.
Hurting someone unjustly. Yes.
Putting something in its improper place.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Now we're talking. Now we're
All the
talking.
way back there.
Okay. Yes. Your name is Zayn. Oh, everyone listen.
A believer is protected by three:
A believer protected by three. Go ahead.
his blood, his wealth, and his honor.
His blood, his wealth, and his honor.
It stands to reason whoever, if one violates one of these, or even all three of these, that's oppression.
It stands to reason that if one violates any one or all three of these, or anywhere in between, then that is oppression. Okay. So let's talk about it. So we're going to take your name, Khan, sir. I see you with the blue. You had a definition. Yes. Tell me your name, sir. You said Ayub?
Yeah.
Ayub. Okay. Ayub had a definition for us. And what he said is that dhulm is wad'u shay fi ghayri mawdi'ih, to put something in other than its proper place. Okay? So let's go with that. Let's go with that. As a definition for oppression. That oppression is to put something in other than its proper place. Yes, please. No, go ahead. Okay. When you get pressures placed on your faith and you get pressured into doing things. And then you start hiding your faith. Okay. That actually can fit as well. That can fit as well. Okay. So to put something in other than its proper place on the surface may not sound like oppression, but we are going to illustrate an example for you that I think you can understand this definition as oppression. Now, what is this? It's a hand, right? All right. Looks scary at all? Doesn't look scary, right? All right. Now, if I take this hand and I do this with this hand right now is with me. But if I take this hand and I place it up alongside your face, then you would say that I oppressed you. Would you not? Why would you say that? Because the place of my hand is not up alongside your face. So then to put something in other than its proper place is oppression. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, just so that we can understand the verse, and then we'll move our discussion forward. When this verse was revealed, the companions, they said to themselves, and which one of us does not oppress our own selves? Like, what human being is there that exists, generally speaking, that you don't do anything wrong to yourself ever? Like, you perfect? You never do anything wrong? You never do anything untoward? You never do anything unbecoming? Right? Nobody's perfect, right? We get it right, and we hope we get it right most of the time, but sometimes you're going to get it wrong, right? So the companions, when they heard verses of the Quran or they heard a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are looking at the verse or hadith, the prophetic tradition, relative to themselves and how they can practice it in their lives, like every single time, every single verse. So then, this being the case for, I believe that number is 6,236 verses in the Quran. Each one of those, they're trying to figure out, how can I practice this in my life? How can I utilize it to make my life better? How can I utilize this to make other people's lives better? How can I utilize this to make my relationship better with Allah? That's their thinking. The Quran, it wasn't just like a literature book that you just read it like a novel and that's it. It is a life guide. It is a model for self-improvement. It is a model for realization and actualization. Like, that's what's going on with the Quran and the Sunnah. So far, so good. So when they heard the verse, how can we practice it? Which one of us doesn't wrong our own selves at some point in time? So then the Prophet ﷺ tells them, well, that's not what this means here in this context. Rather, what it means is referring to the verse in the shirk, la dhulmun adhim. Certainly shirk is grave oppression. Certainly shirk is grave oppression. Now, we don't want to go too far off on that tangent, but we'll simply say that shirk is creation worship. Shirk is to worship the creation. All right? There are some technicalities and academics that we can go into, but if we have opportunity and you're interested, we can do that on the tail end. We'll just say that shirk is worshiping the creation. That's what shirk is. Okay? So, when you worship, who are you meant to be worshiping? Allah. Anyone else? What is an act of worship? Give me an example of an act of worship.
Prayers.
Hajj, prayers, keep going.
Zakat.
Zakat,
Sharing food.
sharing food, yes. Making dua. Fasting. Praying. One more time? I didn't hear. Okay, good. Keep going. One last one. Go. Dhikr, okay. Now, if you direct your worship to other than Allah, it's oppression. Because the definition of oppression is to put something other than its proper place. Right? Allah stating in the Quran, certainly shirk is grave oppression. If you are committing shirk, this means you're taking acts of worship and you're devoting them to other than Allah. That's not their place. They're meant to be directed to Allah, so it's oppression by definition. Hitherto, Allah says so in the Quran. All right? Now, there are different types of oppression. What do we think the different types of oppression could be? We know what it is, but it's categories to it. It's not all one thing. It's different ways it can happen. What are some different ways you think oppression can happen, if you had to categorize it? One of them we kind of just gave you. Go ahead.
Like being like oppressing a people.
Oppressing a people. Good, that's one type. When you oppress other than yourself, right? You oppress other than yourself. Okay, good. Someone else? Yes.
Like you said, oppressing yourself.
Oppressing yourself. Good, that's another type. Right there, there are three that we're going to discuss. That's two of them. The first one, we kind of said it. Go ahead.
Oppressing Allah.
Okay. Now, not that we are oppressing Allah, but we are transgressing the rights of Allah. Right? But you're right. So, dhulm, oppression can occur with the rights of Allah, where you take the rights of Allah and you put them in other than their proper place. Oppression can occur with yourself, when you take the rights that you have over yourself and you put it in other than its proper place, and you wrong and oppress yourself. Number two. Number three, you can oppress other than yourself, where others outside of yourself have rights, and you take their rights and put their rights in other than their proper place. That's oppression. All right? Now, we're supposed to filter in some history and some current events here. To be quite honest with you, I was asked to speak about the Israeli-Hamas war. That's what I was asked to speak about to you guys, okay? Now, when I was asked to speak about that with you guys, my question was, well, what's the age range? How mature are they? Do they follow these type of issues? Are they aware of what's going on? And I was kind of told like, yes, yes, yes. Yes, they're in the age range. Yes, they're mature. Yes, they're kind of aware of what's going on. And they could utilize some direction on this issue. But guess what? Now you guys are in front of me. So I can ask you guys. Are we aware of what's taking place on the other side of the world right now? We're aware. Okay. Are we thinking about what's taking place on the other side of the world in Islamic context? Okay, so we're looking at what's happening in the world and we're reflecting on our own faith relative to what's happening in the world? Indeed, huh? Is that something that I should talk about with you guys? Is that something that you would like me to talk about with you guys? Okay. So before we can come current, I kind of got to give you a little bit of history, right? A little bit of history so you can understand how we even got here, right? And to talk about all the details would take us more time than we have. But we need to give you something that you can walk away with, and you can take that and delve deeper on your own, okay? I want to give you some tools. Can I give you some tools? Can I do that? All right. What grades are we in? Second grade? Let's say you're in the second grade? All right. So seventh grade. You said 9th, 10th? 11. Oh, that was adding a 1. 11. 12. We got a senior? 8th grade? 10th grade? 9th grade? All right, so far I'm hearing from 7th grade to 12th grade. We have any grades below 7th grade? 5th grade? 6th grade? So everyone here is from 5th grade to 12th grade. That's what I'm understanding? Okay. There was something that took place in the world called the World War. World War I. Anybody ever heard of that? There's a World War I. There's a World War II. We're making dua to Allah that we don't enter into a World War III. Right? Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to be surprised if you have an answer. World War I, when did it happen? When did it start? Go ahead.
Was it 1914?
Now I'm impressed. Okay. 1914. Now, in the Western school system, there's a certain way that we're learning about World War I. Okay? We're learning about it from the perspective of Western society. And that's fine. And that's fine. There are other things that were taking place, though, relative to Muslims. Muslims were around, and Muslims were impacted by the events of World War I. Now, in our Western study of World War I, maybe we see something about the Muslims as a footnote, but there was a lot more to it than that. We have something in Islam called a Khalifa. Anybody ever heard of that? Khalifa or Caliph? The ruler of the Muslim world? We've heard of that before, right? Okay. Now, at one time, it was almost a third of the globe, a third of the planet Earth, which was basically all like one country. Muslims. All us. Okay? Now, do we know when the last Khalifa was? Like from the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq, after the passing of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have always had a Khalifa. We've always had a Caliph historically with the Muslims. For over 1,000 years, there was always one until there wasn't. Do we know about when or who that last Caliph was? Go ahead.
I think it was a Turkish caliph.
It is a Turkish Caliph. It is the Ottoman Empire. Keep coming.
It's Abdul Majid.
Abdul Majid II. You're right. 1924. What's the current year?
2023.
2023. So 1924 was how long ago?
100 years.
Like 60 years ago?
Okay, about 100 years ago. It's about a century ago. So it's been a century that the Muslims have not had a Khalifa. Okay? And that was the end of what we call the Ottoman Empire. Now, here's what happens though. If you have a third of the planet and it's all basically one country, can you really do anything with that? Can you if you're opposing that, can you really fight that? Can you fight a third of the current human civilization? No, you can't. You can't do anything with that, right? You're going to change their beliefs? You're going to change their culture, their worldview? No, you're not going to do that. So then an approach has to be, there's a question, a bit of a philosophical question. What is the best way to eat an elephant? I'm not telling you to eat an elephant. We're just doing a little bit of philosophy. What's the best way to eat an elephant? Go ahead. You said with your hands?
No, with ants.
With hands.
Ants.
Oh, with ants. Oh, use the ants. My man. What's your name? Isa. Okay, Isa with the ants. Okay. So, someone else? Go ahead. We're being philosophical. I'm not telling you to eat that elephant, but if it was going to be eaten, what's the best way to eat elephant? Go ahead. If it's big, divided into pieces. That's right. The best way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So then you have this large portion of the earth, all Muslims under one government, basically. We need to divide that up.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. Here you go. Divide and conquer, okay? So then we have to find a way to get rid of the Khalifa. That happened. Abdul Majid II, 1924 was the last one we had. Okay? After that, because World War I was in 1914, right? Abdul Majid II is no longer the Khalifa in 1924. So that's 10 years. But 2 years after 1914 is what year? 1916. And in 1916, there was an agreement made called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Right? You can look it up. I'm just giving you some exposure. It's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Sykes, not like psych, I ain't mean it. Not like that type of psych. But S-Y-K-E. S-Y-K-E. Sykes, S-Y-K-E-S. Sykes, Picot. Picot spelled like peacock. P-I-C-O-T. Sykes-Picot Agreement. Where we have some Western authorities who get together with a map of the world, right? Mostly the Muslim world. And literally, they put out the map, they get some pens and pencils, and they just start drawing lines on the map. You said 4? These lines that we drew, that's for France. These lines that we drew, that's for Britain. These lines that we drew, that's for something else. And these lines that got drawn on the map, you know what we call them today? Countries. Borders. You guys are with me. You guys are with me, okay? So this was the beginning of that. The Islamic territories was all kind of under one thing until this plan got put into place, okay? That's 1916. 1 year after 1916, there's something else that happened. What's 1 year after 1916? 1 year. 1916, 1 year later. Go ahead, is what year? 1917. You have something else that occurred. I'm telling you this so that you can look it up on your own. Called the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration. Anyone ever heard of that? You said yes. You have, huh? Smart guy. In the Balfour Declaration, what happens is there's an agreement with Britain to establish a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. Okay? So this agreement was made in 1917 with Western superpowers. Okay? But it doesn't happen immediately. There's a plan, they're patient, they roll it out over a number of years. It doesn't happen immediately like that. Okay? So now, World War I, we get past it, right? But these things are impacting the Muslims though, right? Behind this, there are things impacting the Muslims. The Sykes-Picot Agreement impacted the Muslims. The Balfour Declaration impacted the Muslims, right? When there's no longer a Khalifa, Abdul Majid II, the Ottoman Empire is over, that impacts the Muslims globally, right? Now we have these nation states that we call countries, and eventually we get to the point where there are now 50 plus Muslim countries in the world. That didn't used to be a thing. And 100 years ago is not that long ago. Same page? Okay. After World War I, eventually we get to World War II, which happens when? 1945, although 1948 is relevant. In 1945, we have World War II, okay? But these agreements were made back when? 1916, 1917, right? Okay, so we're pushing 30 years later, right? It's almost 30 years later. And then after World War II, we eventually get to the year 1948. And what happens in 1948?
Holocaust.
And keep coming.
World War II. Israel becomes a state.
Ah, okay, good. Right. So we know that World War II had a lot to do with, on the way that we end up learning it, right, in the West, it had a lot to do with what we now call the Holocaust, right? And that was an atrocity. It should not have happened that way, right? It's a terrible thing, okay? As Muslims, in Al-Fatiha, what's the dua inside of Al-Fatiha? Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Is it ihdini or ihdina? Okay, if you say ihdini, how you translate that? Guide me. But it doesn't say guide me, because the guidance is not for you yourself. It says ihdi na. Guidance for us. Who's us?
Mankind.
Mankind. We want guidance for all people. We want guidance for everyone. Okay? We got a few more steps here to take. We're gonna close out. So, in 1948, the agreements that were made 30 years prior, they become enacted. There is an effectuation of those previous agreements. Okay? And my words now, we're going to kind of streamline this for sake of time. The world and the Western world largely turned a blind eye while that promise of a homeland was given to those peoples who, not all of them, but some of them that experienced the Holocaust, now they're allowed to take this homeland or enter into this homeland that the West promised them 30 years ago. And that is the beginning of what we call Israel. Okay? Now, if you're in your home with your family and someone who you don't know breaks down the door to your house, takes your house and puts you out, how you gonna feel about that?
I'm gonna beat him up.
Okay, so that's why there's conflict. That's why there's conflict, okay? Does that make sense? And that has been going on from then till now. Go ahead. He said if that happened in 1945, then 30 years prior. Because when you are looking to establish large and long-term plans with real effect, you plan out, see, peoples that are thinking about true power, they're not thinking about tomorrow or next year. They're thinking 50 years from now, 100 years from now. They're planning out for that. Do I think the Holocaust itself was a part of a plan? Definitely. Eventually it became one, for sure, right? But we're not looking to necessarily get conspiratorial. We're looking to give you a few keys, right? A few keys where you can go off and do further research. Now, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This hadith states, "Unsur akhaka zaliman aw madhluma." Aid your brother, whether he is the oppressor or he is the one being oppressed. What the Prophet ﷺ said. So the Sahaba, when they heard the Prophet ﷺ say this, the companions, when they heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say this, they had a question. They said, "Unsuruhu idha kana madhluman, walakin kayfa unsuruhu idha kana zaliman." They said, okay, I can aid him if he's the one that's being oppressed, but how am I supposed to help him if he is the oppressor? What do you think the Prophet ﷺ said? Yes?
He said you're supposed to stop him and try and help him. He's trying to stop him from being.
تَرْدَعُهُ أَوْ تَمْنَعُهُ عَنْ ظُلْمِهِ.
Yeah.
Right? Stop that person from their oppression. Okay? Now, you and I, we're not a government. We're not the government. Right? We're not the government. We are citizens living inside of a country. We're not the government, right? We're not the police. We're not the military. We're not any of those things. So it's not for us to go over there and start fighting. That's not our role. We're not a government. Yet, we are witnessing something take place that I think maybe the people here don't like it and maybe they think it's wrong. Am I wrong? That we don't like it and you think it's wrong what's taking place. Is that how you feel about it? If you feel differently, you can say. Right? How do you feel about it? How you feel about it? You got the shirt on. How you feel about it?
I think it's wrong.
You think it's wrong. Someone else, what do you think? How you feel about it? Terrible. Keep going. Thumbs down. Okay. What can we do? What can we do? We heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. What can we do? Huh? So you said, what we talking about? Not my man.
Just asking a question.
Not my man. So what we're talking about, right, is the Israeli-Hamas war was taking place.
Okay.
Right? And we're stating that, we know when you stepped out and you came back in. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. Right? So, all right. So we're not the government. We're not the military. We're not the police. Right? So we're not going to go over there and fight. That's not our role. Right? Yet we're seeing things taking place that we don't like and that we think are wrong. So what can we do about it? Because the Prophet ﷺ told us that we help people that are being oppressed, right? Whether it's the one being oppressed or the oppressor. We're supposed to help the oppressor. How do we help the oppressor? We help the oppressor by stopping the oppressor from their oppression, right? Because that's harmful to their souls. So what can we do? What can we do as Muslims? As Muslims in America, what can we do in this scenario? Go ahead.
So
My man, you got something now. Okay.
Yeah, so
I told you we're going to get the next one. Go ahead.
the Prophet said that Allah won't change the state of the Muslims until they change their state.
Okay.
Like we have to change ourselves.
إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. So Allah states that Allah will not change the people until they change their own selves first. Okay, good. So spirituality. Okay, the hearts of the people. Okay, good. What else can we do? So we need to change the hearts of the people. You're right. Keep going. Yes. We can make dua. We can make dua. Yes. Protest. That's an option. Go ahead.
Give charity.
Give charity. Good. Humanitarian aid. Boycott. Possible. Call our government representatives. You guys are talking now. Our sister said yes. No. Now you're hiding. No, take your time. If you have something, we're with you. Advocate against propaganda. Okay, good. So all these are possibles. One more. Educate ourselves and others. Good. These are all things that we can do. And these are all things that we should be doing if they are effective and if the benefits of doing them outweigh the harms. So all the things that you said, we look at, is it more beneficial than it is harmful? If so, then we do it, and if not, then we would not. Does that make sense? Last hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, then I'm going to close. And in fact, we'll just mention what it says. There's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, there is a time that is going to come where the nations will be called throughout the entire of the horizon. And they will come upon you all, and they will take from you the same way people sitting around a large plate in order to feast. Like, I think you guys are going to be eating something soon, right? Gather around a large plate and feast. Could you imagine that? That nations from all around the world are gathering around the Muslims and just taking from the Muslims like they're eating from a plate. The Prophet ﷺ said this was going to happen. The companions, when they heard this, they said, are our numbers going to be small at that time, O Messenger of Allah? Because maybe if it's a few of us, maybe they can overcome us. But if it's a lot of us, then we can't see how that can happen. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, your numbers will be many at that time. You will be like the foam of the sea. You ever go to the ocean? Right, we're on the East Coast. What ocean do we have on the East Coast? The Atlantic Ocean. Anybody ever go to the beach? You ever watch the waves crash? Right, the waves come onto the shore, onto the beach. You ever see that happen? Yes? So when waves are coming onto the beach, what else do you see as they're coming on? And they're crashing? Foam, right? How much foam do you see? A lot at that one beach. What about all the way up the East Coast? How much foam is that? What about all the 7 seas? How much foam is that? The Prophet ﷺ is saying your numbers are going to be many like the foam in the sea. And today, out of 8 billion people on the face of the earth, 2 billion of them are Muslims, us. Huh? Only? That's a huge number. That's like 1 out of every 4 people on the planet Earth. It's one of us. So then, he goes on and he says to the companions that weakness will be placed inside of your hearts, and the people who don't want good for you, their fear of you will be removed from their hearts. And you all, we will bring you all into this space where you have so many large numbers, but you're easily overcome. Your love for the life of this world, glitz and glamour and money and desires and things like that, and your dislike, your fear of death. Not saying that we don't have a good life. Not saying you shouldn't have good things in your life, because you should. You should have the good of this life and the good of the hereafter. In fact, that is the most frequent dua of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The dua he would say the most of them, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِينَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Oh Allah, grant us the good of this life, the good of the hereafter, and protect us from the fire of hell. So you can have things in this life. Have good things. Have a nice house. Have a nice car. Have a nice family. No problem. But don't forget about your hereafter. Don't choose this life over the next life. Don't choose this life and lose the next life. Take both. But don't lose your hereafter in your chasing this life. Have the paradise of this life and the paradise of the hereafter. But don't lose out on your hereafter. All right. I believe we made our point. We've been talking for a little while now. Do you all have any questions for me before I let you go? Sure. Sir. And what's your name, sir? Ahmed. Ahmed, what's your question, sir?
What does the UK get out of establishing the state of Israel? Why would they do that?
What does the UK get out of establishing the nation of Israel? So, let's say, all right, we're going to strike an example here, okay? So, let's say you're in a good position, right? You got a good education, you got a good job, you got a good business, right? And let's say, Adil, you moved.
Yeah, I did.
You came closer.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say Adil, who came closer, because I like him and he likes me, right? Let's say that Adil is not where you are, right? But Adil got a lot of potential. So then you help out Adil now, and you know that once Adil gets up on his feet, he's going to be able to do a lot of good stuff for you. So you help him out now, and then when the Adil, how old are you, Adil? You're 14. So you willing to wait until the Adil is 34, 20 years. Because you know once he's 34, you got a good job in the business, but Adil is he's the next Jeff Bezos. He's the next Elon Musk. So you willing to make that wait. So then you build a relationship, you network, so that you can benefit later and position yourself to have a better life. Because you said you're in Britain, right? So in this example, you're in Britain. You don't want to move. You don't want to move over to the Middle East. You don't want to move over there. And the people that are over there, a lot of them aren't necessarily your friends. But there are a lot of resources that are there. Would it not make sense to have an ally right there in the middle of all of it? Somebody you can trust and rely on? Somebody that through them you can get access to these resources? Right? Like the discussion with the Suez Canal, for example. Right? And other things too. So, if that helps. Right? If that helps. Our sisters? Questions from our sisters? Anything for me? Maybe? Questions for me? I'm off the hook? Okay. So, you guys are looking like you're ready to have some more fun. You guys are looking like y'all ready to eat. Because y'all looking at me like y'all want to eat me, and y'all not going to eat me. So, I'm going to let y'all eat the food, inshallah.